All right, Blake, we're live here with Blake Lawrence, the co-founder of Opendorse in the ever-changing world of NIL these days, and just helping athletes, with their not only get paid but like help their brand and help their voice, amplify their voice. So excited to chat with you, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, Joe, I appreciate you having me. And it is a ever-changing world of NIL. So we can dive as deep into as you want or uh, tell you the journey. So I'll just follow your lead.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'd love to start with the journey, kind of going actually all the way back. Maybe I was just reading an article where it looked like at one point you might have had a professor or something in Nebraska like
Yeah.
that pushed you to start probably your first company, right? Hurrdat. Like, what was the story there? Would you have done all this had it not been for that
Certainly.
push?
The as a student athlete, I went and I played football in Nebraska, right? I got recruited across the country, went to Nebraska and became a starting linebacker my sophomore year, my junior year, we're the number one defense in the country. I thought that I was on a path towards the NFL. Like the linebacker in front of me and behind me, those guys got picked up in the NFL. And so that was kind of my path. And then uh, I suffered 4 concussions in a year. I was forgetting my name and where I was. So I stepped away from the game early. And it was in the fall of 2009. It was about a month done, playing football at Nebraska. And went through that transition period where all athletes get to. Where what do you do next? And I was in a class with Sam Nelson, my professor, and he was on the board writing about something, and I had this idea in my mind, and I stood up in class and I literally just shouted like I have an idea, and like a eureka moment, like I felt I had to say it. And so Sam put down his marker and turned around and said, "All right, Blake, tell us your idea." And I went through this pitch of like, well, and I went through a pitch of like what I wanted to do. And the professor Nelson embraced it and they like gave me the floor and let me talk about it. And then that gave me a spark to say, I'm just a month removed from being a football player, and I'm now finding that I have a lot of energy and passion that I could put towards entrepreneurship and an environment at Nebraska that would allow me to put my energy and passion into entrepreneurship. So I think everything kind of came into a moment where, okay, this is what I should do next. I'm no longer a football player, but if I can put my energy that used to go into football into building something big, maybe I could have an equal impact on the state of Nebraska as I would as a football player.
We've built something pretty big so far. It's still going. It's a cool story. What I was going to ask you this at one point. Was just thinking about this, but like, what are some of the similarities that you found from this entrepreneurship journey
Mm-hmm.
to being an athlete? Like, do you get that same feeling a little bit? So I'm sure it's different from a lot of. I mean, it's certainly unique to a lot of other careers, but what are
Yeah.
some of the similarities? I guess.
If anyone listening, anyone watching, if you've played sports on a team level or even individual, but a lot of times, like the lessons that I learned as an athlete came from playing team sports. And so when you think about that team, any level of sport that you achieved, you can instantly start to have an emotion or a feeling of a connection to one another. And whether you had a lot of success together, overcome a lot of challenges, whether you had a lot of failures together, no matter what, it bonds you and brings you together. And you realize you're, not alone, right? If you relive those moments. So when I think about entrepreneurship as compared to being an athlete, um, so many things translate, right? So I think about at Nebraska or again throughout my athletic journey, teamwork, like understanding skill set. Not everyone is the quarterback. Not everyone is the star receiver or running back. Not everyone's the star linebacker. I played with a guy named Ndamukong Suh, and most of our role at Nebraska was making sure that Ndamukong was set up for success, and that was part of teamwork. And then the discipline, right? So before you even get to a game where you have to balance out strengths and weaknesses of a team, it's being able to show up and be accountable to for one another and being disciplined to show up on time every time. Uh, Game plans, execution, film review, business plans. operations, financial review, right? This is a melody that you learn very early on as an athlete that you have to plan, execute, and review. And a lot of times in sports, you're doing it on every single play, right? So, Joe, I can imagine that you're playing baseball at Seton Hall and you're going up and you're going to the plate for an at bat. And that first pitch happens, like you prepare for that pitch, the pitch occurs, you swing, and you have milliseconds to react to the pitch, but then you have a couple seconds to get your mind right and understand, what did I do right? What's he going to do next? Like, and then you go right in the next moment. That is switch the pitch to a sales call or a meeting. And, you prepare for the meeting happens, you have some time to review, the next meeting begins. So much of the melody of sports trickles into the world of business. And then the world of entrepreneurship is just a little bit layered deeper into overcoming adversity, believing in yourself, commitment to a bigger cause, being passionate, like not wanting to go to the gym and not wanting to run that last lap. Like, that is a natural experience in sports and as athletes. And the difference between the athletes that get to play at the next level and those that don't are, you get up and you go to the weight room. You finish the last lap. Like, you get that last rep in. Same thing with entrepreneurship. The difference between founders that have something and people with an idea is that founders with something become obsessed with the problem they're solving, but also aren't afraid to show up again and again and again, even when it is not fun, it is not easy, but you find a way because you have purpose and it's driving you forward.
Love it, man. Yeah, so many. Yeah, just so much of what you just said is awesome. Yeah, just the similarities, because that's what I don't know. Like, there some athletes that, like, you can potentially get in a rut, like, if you're not applying those things. I feel like, but you kind of jumped right into that. And one thing you were saying is that the purpose behind it, like, that's the reason why you started, because
Right.
you thought you were going to the NFL, and then it cuts a little bit short. And you're seeing all these NIL types of companies pop up within the last couple of years. I mean, who's to say that maybe they have that maybe have good intentions behind it, but maybe they're trying to make money too. So, like, you have the personal story. How much does that impact when you guys are going to talk to folks? Like, you have the personal story. How much does that impact the outcome of those conversations?
So I'll take you back to like origins of Opendorse and how this has become a key part of our story and a differentiator, and how I believe we're making a significant impact on this industry and giving it infrastructure and balance and somebody to trust and rely on. Because NIL is new to the world of college sports. It's not new to sports. The concept of name, image, and likeness monetization in pro sports is called endorsements. Opendorse, we started in 2012. So our company is 13 years old. Like, we've been developing technology and services and solutions for the athlete endorsement industry for more than a decade. And that's given us a lot of insight into how this world actually works and operates, where most folks are just coming into it and trying to figure it out. Right. But you mentioned a key word is purpose. What I've been doing since the day I was done with football to this podcast, like, every day of my life has been dedicated to helping athletes understand it doesn't last forever, right? So make the most of your moment, because you never know when you're finished. And our very first company was a social media agency called Hurrdat, Hurrdat. It still exists today. It's actually a very fast growing media company out of Omaha, Nebraska, and still some roots in Lincoln, Nebraska. But that's the company that Adi Kanalik, my co-founder of Opendorse, we started back in 2010, basically out of our dorm room. And we set out to use social media to help people use social media to establish an online presence. We started working with brands, and we started working with athletes. And the athlete side of it was where we found a lot of love and passion, because our teammates were going off to the NFL, and they had this opportunity to have a 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in the spotlight. And if they could capture as much attention, as much energy around them, it could springboard them into the rest of their life. And so we started working in the social media space of helping athletes build their brands online. And we were also working with business clients. And when we realized the athletes were generating 20 times the engagement of the business clients, we started to have our athlete clients, we would pay them to promote our business clients. And what we found out is that it worked. When athletes say the right thing about the right business at the right time, there's no more valuable asset in the world of sports marketing, or I think advertising in general, the value of an athlete endorsement. But we realized also that the infrastructure around athlete endorsements had to change. It was built for an archaic, like, billboards and television commercials and trading cards world, when in 2010, 11, 12, this was a social media, live streaming, like online digital brand world. And so we created Opendorse in 2012 to solve that problem, to make it easier for athletes to access opportunities and monetize their online presence, work with brands in a turnkey way. But going back to the purpose, why it was important for us to make it easier to work with athletes in 2012 is because we know it, if you're in the league for a year, you're in the spotlight for 2 years, if it takes you 6 months to get something done, you can only do it 4 times in 2 years, right? But if we could have you get an endorsement deal to your phone, signed and out the door, cash in your pocket in 6 minutes, we can transform the ability for athletes to monetize while they're in the spotlight. And so that was the origins of Opendorse. Like, how do we make it as fast and simple and easy as possible to work with athletes? And of course, we were working with professional athletes. But if you think about what we do today, it is still the same thing. It is that we need to make it incredibly easy for people to work with athletes, because whether they're a student athlete or a professional athlete, if the right athlete says the right thing about the right business at the right time, there's no more valuable asset in sports. And so we just enable that on a much bigger scale than we could ever have imagined. But it's also rooted in that same purpose, like small window of opportunity. Let's make it happen fast. Let's get the most out of it. Let's springboard in the next part of our lives.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, how did you guys? So you Hurrdat. So you had Hurrdat, and then what were the first steps that you did to start building the company? I mean, you were a big time college football player, so I'm sure you had some of that network. But
Yeah.
I'm just thinking from the perspective of somebody who, like, how many people actually have an idea and then go do it
And
right?
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was,
So, like,
again,
what did you? Yeah.
yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you want to know, I'll just tell you, like, the shortest, realest story, right? In April of 2009, I signed up for this website called twitter.com, right? And I was the first guy at Nebraska, first athlete in Nebraska to use Twitter. I was one of the first college athletes in the country to have a presence. And I got to 1,000 followers relatively quickly, with Nebraska fans following me. So I had this little mini audience. And when I was done playing ball, I thought they would all go away. And in fact, they've all stayed. That first 1,000 followers still follow me today. But within me being done, and then me standing up in that classroom and saying, I have an idea, to me starting Hurrdat, I had a direct message from a local business owner, said, hey, I've been following you on Twitter. I'm a big fan of the Huskers. I want you to help my business have the same level of online presence as you do. Can you come meet with me? And that turned into an internship, which led to, in the first 6 months of me running this gentleman's social media channels, we generated over $200,000 in new business for them, like just by using the tools. And in 2010, Twitter didn't have analytics. You couldn't post photos on even on like Facebook. You couldn't post photos to pages. There was no data behind it. So we had to build this infrastructure to track and say, if I post this, how many likes does it get? How many comments does it get? How many retweets does it get? That sort of thing. So we had to build this infrastructure that proved the value to this business. Audie Kanalik is my co-founder of Opendorse. He's co-founder of Hurrdat. We were roommates, teammates at Nebraska. And one night we just had a conversation. He said, hey, I'm going in my senior year. So Audie was going in his senior year. And he said, I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to do something. Like we were always idea guys. And I said, well, I'm doing the social media thing for one guy and it's working pretty well. Like, what if we did it for 1,000 people? Like, what if we just helped everybody run social media channels? And he said, that's a pretty good idea. And we went out to the bars that night and had a good time. The next morning I woke up and Audie had emailed me a business plan template. Said, let's do it. Let's figure it out. So you asked a simple question, like, what's the difference between people that have ideas and people that have businesses? Right. And it's moments like that where you maybe share your idea and you have somebody that's going to spark you to take the first step. And from that, again, day to this day, like Audie, Kanalk, and I every single day have worked together to balance out our strengths and to get stuff done at a high capacity, high level. And if Audie doesn't send me that business plan that next morning and say, let's do this, I don't know if that's just one idea that goes in one, ear out the other. But that was a catalyst. And then we spent the summer of 2010. I moved out to New York. I was working in an internship, and we spent our nights that summer building out the business plan for Hurrdat. And then in August 2010, we walked into our boss at the Filebound is the name of the business we were working for. Filebound, like early document management company. And we said we quit. We started our own company, and here's what it costs to work with us. And Rex Lamb is the CEO of that company, and he circled the biggest package we offered and said, let's get started. And that's how we started our first business. But it was the first conversation that Audie and I had was in the spring of 2010. And it was really centered on what if we did something together, and sparked a summer of late nights, Skype sessions, of building business plans, and had a very great opportunity to have our first customer. I mean, another gap between ideas and businesses is customers. Like anyone has an idea, but if you can get somebody to pay you, then you're in business. And if you can get two people to pay you, then you got a chance to grow. And that's kind of where it started. Haven't stopped since.
Who was the first customer?
It was Filebound. That was that company. So the company we were interning for was our first customer. And it was. They also gave us office space and a place to start. We've talked about Nebraska on this podcast a couple of times. When I committed to go to Nebraska, I got asked a lot of questions about why. My older brother played quarterback at Kansas. I'm from Kansas. I grew up as a K-State fan, not a Nebraska fan. But the first time I visited the state, I realized the people there are so incredibly supportive of the student athlete experience. And I thought that if I could experience that while in college, maybe be part of this community, then it could have a lasting impact on my life. And the fact that when my career was over, the audience stayed with me. The fact that I got an internship because of somebody following me on social media that turned into that person becoming our first customer and giving us office space. And like so much of what I have today is rooted in the fact that I think I made the right decision to go to Nebraska. And I owe so much of my life to that state. I met my wife at Nebraska, and my best friend, business partner, and our company is still headquartered in Lincoln, Nebraska. And that's the other hidden side of the college athlete experience is when you commit to a school and you commit to the community and the community commits back to you, it can change your life.
Yeah. So you just raised an interesting point right there, because that'll kind of bridge the conversation that I want to bring up with you. I mean, first off, the timing, I don't know if it's the timing or just like the opportunity that maybe you foresaw it at the time when you guys started it with professional athletes. Like I'm sure you may have seen that this was coming down the pike with NIL and everything along those, or yeah, maybe you didn't. I don't know, but that's something that like, the traditionalist and the old school football or doesn't even just college sports fan is like, oh, this kid's going to, he's jumping ship. There's no loyalty. He just wants to get paid. And you brought up Seton Hall for me. I mean, even if I wanted to transfer, which I had a great experience there, it was kind of just like, all right, where are you going to go? I mean,
Yep.
you're there, you have your friends there, that kind of stuff. But what is this like I guess, how does what you guys are doing impact that college athlete
Yeah.
experience and jumping?
It's
Yeah.
interesting because, again, I'll tell you a quick anecdote. Audie Kanalik, I've talked about my co-founder quite a bit. Like, he is a full scholarship kicker, like one of the top in the country, had offers all over, went to Nebraska, and he got beat out for the starting kicking job for field goals by a guy named Alex Henry, who went on to be the most accurate kicker in NCAA history at the time, and best in All-American status type of thing at Nebraska. So Audie was his kickoff specialist, not the kickoff field goal guy. And after freshman year, we seriously sat down and said, like, should Audie transfer? But at the time, you'd have to sit out a year. And that was enough to keep him at Nebraska. If there was no transfer rules then, Audie would have left, and none of this would exist. So that's an interesting thing. I just know personally that that's what the transfer portal impact would have been on me. But I also don't think that restricting Audie's movements to go to somewhere else is something that anybody should be able to do. Like, if you desire to pursue something different, there's not many places in the world that restrict your movement. Not many industries at all that are even allowed to do so. And so the transfer rules and how people are going left and right to pursue whatever opportunity for whatever reason is definitely changed the fan experience. It's definitely had an impact, whether the athletes know it or not, on what could be, right? Because of situations like yours, where you stayed, I stayed, Audie stayed, and we are where we are. NIL and our role in this space is helping athletes, again, make the most of their opportunities, understand their value, build their value, capture the value, right, and follow the rules. Okay. The ability for an athlete to increase their personal net worth before they're 25 years old by hundreds of thousands of dollars by making a move to a place where they are wanted at a higher number than they're currently being offered where they are. Like, again, saying it more like using real words, like, if an athlete's a backup at an SEC school and they're making 100 grand a year and they get offered to make $500,000 a year to be a starter in the Big 12, they should make that move 100% of the time. Because you do not know how many times in life you're going to be offered a $400,000 raise before you're 25 years old, right? And so the pride that sports fans have for the kid that stuck it out and didn't get a shake or a chance at the NFL, but they stuck it out, but that person's bank account is $800,000 lighter because of it. Like, I'm not quite sure that the impact that can have once we go back and study this in 10, 15, 20 years on the economic impact on individual athletes by staying or going. What we know from a data point standpoint right now is athletes who transfer make 5 times as much money during their college career than athletes who stay. That's what the data says. So if you don't like the transfer portal, but you love capitalism, then you are in a tough spot.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's an insane stat.
Yeah.
That's a crazy stat. So then, where do you? I mean, like I was just watching. I was going back through some of your reels the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were talking about one was an example of a forward in certain conferences. What was an example of a center?
Mm-hmm.
Some of these kids are getting paid over $1 million.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, like, what is that going to look like in a couple of years? I mean, because the example. So I was just talking the other day to a buddy of mine. His name's Dan Furman. He's with the
Mm-hmm.
NIL collective. Yeah, you maybe seen his
Yeah, no,
stuff
Dan. Yeah.
at Louisville. Yeah, so we were just talking about how what's his name, quarterback that transferred to Miami. For
Yeah.
you know,
It's funny that we're both sitting there blanking. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
all right, whatever. But blanking on his name. So he's going to Miami, and he's going to make more than several quarterbacks that are on their rookie deal in the NFL.
Right.
Like, what's going to
Carson Beck. Sorry, Carson Beck.
Carson Beck? Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Georgia. Yeah, Georgia. So, um, so I guess you're talking about 5, 10, 15 years from now. Like, what's going to be the impact in a couple years with these athletes that are making over $1 million? They're just going to stay around. I mean, they may never make that much money in a, unless they're in a finance job or
Absolutely
something
no.
like that. Yeah,
No,
or
I mean,
whatever. But yeah,
so one of the best things that ever happened in my life to springboard into taking bigger risks or trying crazy things is that Audie and I sold Hurrdat, our first company, in 2014. We sold it. It's got new owners, same name. And we're 25 years old. And at the time to have like a real hefty amount of dollars, not hefty, it's all relative, right? But real money in our bank account at 25, it felt invincible. Like that we could do anything. And that is what's going to happen starting in July of this year when the schools can pay athletes directly. There will be $2 billion a year paid directly from college athletic departments to student athletes. $2 billion a year. Like the average college football player will make well over $100,000 on average per year. If they play for 5 years, they will leave college with $500,000 in their bank account. And all of us went through college with like 200 to 400 bucks in our bank account total, like at any given time. So you don't need to spend money to go through college. The entire ecosystem and infrastructure is set up for you. Like if you leave college without money as a college football, basketball player in the next 5 years, you messed up. Right? You should not have done that. Like you don't need assets. You don't need to buy a car or buy a house. Like you have housing provided to you. Like you should leave college with at least $500,000 in your bank account as a college football player to do whatever else you want the rest of your life. If you get to go to the league, great. But then if you want to get a master's degree, become an expert, like you don't need to be forced into a certain function in society because you have this thing you can lean back on and lay on, or you can start to invest it. And what is that going to do for, again, the next 40, 50 years of wealth generation in this country? It's going to be a significant shift and impact on a different type of citizen. I mean, and the student athlete's going to win, right? That's the upside. The downside is that everyone listening, and I'll speak for myself, I won't speak for you, Joe. But if you give me an extra $100 on a Friday night or a Saturday night in college, you give me $100. Something stupid is going to happen. It's like, it's just it's something stupid. We got athletes that are making $100,000 every 2 weeks, $100,000 every 2 weeks. That with Opendorse, we process the payments for collectives. We do it. I mean, we're hundreds of millions of dollars we bring into college athletes' pockets right now, and some of them just won't do the right things with it. But how many of us had anything figured out at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old? And we're not talking about $100. You're talking about 100,000. It's just something on the downside of this. There's a balcony in the basement of everything. And the basement, we just still don't know how dark it gets in college sports because the numbers haven't become super real across the board until July of this year when the schools can pay directly.
Man, if you gave me $100 in college, I think I would have just gotten some better beer than like Milwaukee's Best and maybe a couple extra slices of pizza down in that.
Yeah, all your friends would be drinking for free, right? I mean, that's basically what it would be like. It's all on me, and that's how I would have handled it for sure.
We'd be living large.
Yeah,
It's just So you're the way that you talk about that. I mean, it's kind of like you're proud that you're putting money in college at like as you should be. Um,
Yeah.
so it's just funny, like just the way that you look at these things, because some people are like, man, college athletes should not be getting paid this much. It's like it's so unregulated. But to your point, I mean, that period of your life is probably the most attention, or I think I maybe have heard you talk about this, like just the opportunity that's there, and how
Hmm.
many athletes, I mean, hopefully with platforms like Opendorse, you are taking advantage of it, but how many athletes, like you can get that meeting when you're in college. It's a lot harder to get that meeting with whoever it is 10 when you're 10 years out of college.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I mean, that's this. Will Compton is one of my best friends, and
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
busting with the boys. And one of the things that he talks about is, and when you're in the NFL, you're better looking, right? Your jokes are funnier, right? You're smarter, and it's just the perspective around you. But the minute that you leave the shield and you're just a regular old Joe, you're not as funny. Like you're not as smart. You're not as good looking, and that's just the reality of the athlete experience. And most athletes don't realize that their career is done. I mean, it's and it becomes an identity crisis. And so, and you don't know when your last game's going to be, your last play is going to be, your last, run around the track is going to be. And so anyone that's in this space that likes sports should like the people that are trying to support athletes after sports are done. And that's a big part of our mission and what we do at Opendorse.
Yes. Yeah. So then that was something I was curious about, because can athletes still use Opendorse after they graduate? I mean, can they still get
Yeah.
these? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Opendorse is free for athletes. They sign up and it stays with them for life. So we got athletes that are retired athletes that are getting paid to do an appearance or sign autographs or do a shout out. And they stopped playing college sports 5 years ago. They stopped playing pro sports 10 years ago. Like they're still part of this ecosystem. And that's an important thing too, is that athletes are in the eyes of the right fan, forever athletes, right? And when I go back to Nebraska, I get recognized as Blake Lawrence, the football player. And there are interns that work for us, or the interns weren't even born when I was playing. So there are employees of ours that remember Audie Kanalik and I as football players in Nebraska. They literally look at us differently. They see us as a different thing because of how athletes stick in the minds of their fans. And so that doesn't leave you. And it's a different type of connection as well. I've talked about this at different times, but the growth that we have seen at Opendorse, if you time up athlete marketing and the athlete economy growth with the influencer marketing or the creator economy growth, right? 2010, social media pops off. Instagram's not even a thing yet. We're in it. We're like in the middle of the social media, and then you start to see athletes pop off. Shaq's going big on Twitter, and you're seeing Cristiano Ronaldo, Leo Messi crush it on Facebook and Instagram, and LeBron's taking off. So you see athletes kind of the centerpiece of social dynamics and conversation around just general consumers. And then the creator happens. Then you start to see the YouTube stars and the Mr. Beast and Ninja and that type of creator. And now everyone's a creator. If you open up your Instagram feed right now, like you're going to scroll for hours before you see an athlete post something, but you will see creators left and right, left and right, left and right. But when you see the athlete, you will slow your scroll and you will consume that content because you made a conscious decision to follow this athlete, right? But you made a subconscious decision to follow this athlete no matter what. So your decision to follow a creator is oftentimes rooted only in content. That if a creator stops creating content, they will cease to exist in your mind. They do not exist outside of the context of the content that got you to follow them in the first place. An athlete's the opposite. Like your decision to follow an athlete oftentimes is rooted in the fact that this person played for my school. They played for my team. They played for my country. and they happen to have a social media account and they happen to share content. But the reason I'm connected to this athlete is way deeper than a video on my Instagram feed. And so that's the connection that is really hard to quantify between sports fans and athletes. All of us consume content from athletes and creators, all in the same feed, but our connection to the person who posts the content is wildly different between a creator and an athlete. And that's where I know I'm getting into this, but like that's a very deep rooted relationship that is hard to unwind. And that's why it's important that athletes actually know how to build that relationship with their fans and keep it alive for as long as they possibly can.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true though. Yeah, because if you see, and even if it's just a team, like for instance, what just popped in my head is like Saquon Barkley. So I'm a big Eagles fan,
Mm-hmm.
and you just if I click on one of his pictures, just the engagement that it gets
Yeah.
from even people that I mean, obviously that's an extreme example, but it's like people just resonate with that person and
Yeah.
their personality and
Right.
their story. So, yeah, man, it's so interesting. Where do you like your personal content has also evolved
Mm-hmm.
that you're posting on? I mean, I'm sure that's intentional. Just to like, I guess, what's the thought process behind that?
Yeah. So at Opendorse as a leader of this team, there are moments throughout this journey where we talk about like eating your own dog food, like that concept, that term. I know that term is strange, but just eat the dog food, eat the dog food. And so, part of onboarding at Opendorse is that our employees have to use Opendorse to ask an athlete to do a shout out or do an appearance. Like they have to use the tools so they know like what it's like. Let's get in there, try it out. And gone through this journey over the last several years where we go to campuses, and we've done this for a decade, I mean, just to educate athletes on brand building and content consistency and the importance of sharing content. Um, the average creator that gets paid to create content online will share 6 pieces of content a day, right? The average athlete will share 6 pieces a month. And like this younger generation of athlete, the ones on college campuses today, they'll share like 6 a year on their feed. So if you go to a college campus, ask every student athlete to get their phone out, the athletes, and you take them to their Instagram grid and do one swipe up, you're going to be looking at high school photos for most of them. And it'll be like prom pictures, and that's it. They're very much story sharers and Snapchatters, but stories disappear in 24 hours and only are seen by your followers. Snapchat is obviously a small network in itself in terms of who gets to see your content. So the places that athletes are putting content isn't generating views and engagement that leads to followers, and followers lead to dollars, and dollars, of course, give us optionality in life. The why for me is that for me to stand in front of a 500 student athletes and talk about the importance of sharing content, and I myself am not a content creator or sharer, I'm not eating the dog food, right? So made a conscious effort a year ago to become more consistent in creating content. I've partnered with Grit, Grit, which is my partner in content creation, who has made my life incredibly easy. I'm in a fortunate position where I don't have to create all the assets that I get to share. I get to record them, and they turn into consumable content on my feed. That's why, right? Athletes don't share enough content on social. They still don't. And after years of telling athletes they should, I figured out I should probably try it myself and see what works.
Yeah, yeah. There you go, man. This is great. I just, what do you think the big like? What are some of what's the biggest lesson you've learned in all this? I mean, you've been doing this for over a decade. You've been part of an industry that's probably, I don't know if volatile is the right word, or just like constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the biggest takeaway that you've had to this point, just from doing all this?
Mm-hmm. Joel, I'll answer your question like this. If I can go back in time, just go back a decade and talk to myself in 2015, I would remind myself that things will take twice as long as you think they should and cost twice as much. And knowing that is probably the truest like takeaway I can give to myself is like if I still want to pursue this, if you still know those things and you're still saying yes to this, then you're doing the right thing. And I think that's true for all entrepreneurship. Like I've not met a founder that's created real value, like for an industry or themselves or their, the people in their life that hasn't gone through crazy, crazy challenge and struggle. And I would say that I haven't even shared any of those challenges or struggles of Opendorse. You just know it as an entrepreneur, like that you don't win everything. You don't. So things take longer and cost more money than you could ever imagine. But if you're doing the right thing, it'll never feel like it's taking a long time and it's cost a lot. Is the impact's worth it? What I also say is some of the best advice I've gotten along the way, and that I sticks out in my mind right now, is that as a founder, when you are selling, you're trying to bring on a new customer or a new employee, like just trying to get somebody to join the journey, right? You want to win 100% of the time. Like you want every investor to say yes, every customer to say yes, every prospect to say yes to joining your team, to being in the boat. And it can get really personal when they say no. So at one point I talked to one of our advisors after we had lost out on a big deal. And the advisor, one of our investors, said, hey, would you be okay with 90% market share? If 90% of all people who could be a partner of yours were a partner of yours, I said, I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with 90%. I said, okay, well then just consider this person part of the 10% that will never be one of your partners. You still got the other 90% to go, right? And that to me helps. Like that's the type of thing that for every founder, for everybody building something, and you're like, hey, would you be okay with 90% market share? And when you lose something, just say, hey, that's probably 10%, right? And then most people would be okay with 50% market share, right? If 50% of all people who could possibly be your customer you were one of the best companies in the world, right? No matter how big your industry is, like it's just really hard to get to that point. So you have to think like, all right, if that's true, but if I expect 100% success, like I'm just setting myself up for failure from like a mental health standpoint, from a self-worth standpoint. So what have I learned along the way? Things take twice as long as you think they should, cost twice as much. And sometimes 90% market share is okay.
Some good advice, especially in a world that we live in where you want quick hits. You want that dopamine hit. You want things to happen quick, and it's just not realistic a lot of the time. So
yeah,
Blake, awesome, man. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time. You have a favorite athlete these days? I mean, you're dealing with like the favorite athlete or favorite. I mean, I'm sure college football is still near and dear to your heart, but if you have any thoughts there, I'm just curious.
favorite athlete. I like that question. So fascinating that I want to be original in my answer about who my favorite athlete is.
This was not in the notes, by the way. So
no, it's all right.
Brain buster. Yeah.
I have. Let's see. I got they collect these Funko Pops. Got Tony Hawk right here. Happy Gilmore, Penny Hardaway. That's a good one. My mind went to Wayne Rooney. And I got to figure out why. And, I have Wayne Rooney jerseys. It's like the last jersey I bought was a Wayne Rooney jersey, Manchester United. And I think he just kind of represents an era of athlete that was probably like early on in his career, got into social media, built an audience, has 100 million plus like followers across the globe. Part of that wave of athlete that is hard to shake. Like new era athlete that I'm like fascinated by or that I like. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, I'm a Kansas City kid, so like that's a good one. I think he does a great job on social. Juju Smith-Schuster is one of my favorite athletes I've ever gotten a chance to actually spend time with. He was very early on to YouTube and what he's done there. I am constantly impressed with the Cavanagh twins. Like I got to know them when they're at Fresno State, and no one knew their name from anyone else, but their head coach at Fresno State, who was a partner of ours, said we got these girls that are pretty good at TikTok. Can you talk to them? So yeah, let's talk. And to see them kind of take off and see where they've gone is fantastic. Armando Baycott is one of like the great examples of staying in college, real commercial NIL deals, not just because of collective deals, but actually having a brand and building it. That's fascinating. And I think Quinn Ewers is somebody that I look forward to following. I know he has not gotten the same hype around him as an athlete, going into the NFL draft. But the first time I saw Quinn Ewers was at an Elite 11 camp when he was going into his senior year, which he ended up skipping, so he can go straight to Ohio State, then transfer to Texas. And I remember watching him throw a football with this blonde mullet out in California, and I thought to myself, like, this is God's gift to football. And he has been God's gift to Texas football, certainly. And I still think that Quinn Ewers will be an elite NFL quarterback. Also, great kid, great guy, right? Good family. Yeah. So you asked favorite athlete, and you saw. I mean, Wayne Rooney just became my first answer, but then you can start to see like I go down a long list of athletes that I've really appreciated that have leaned into what we do, and I've seen the results that they've netted from that, and forever thankful for just being a part of their journey.
Yeah, I love that answer. Yeah, because that's interesting. Because Quinn Ewers, he doesn't even get as much love as his backup quarterback, really.
Yeah, no, Arch Manning, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's exactly right. And man, but the word name, image, likeness is pretty solid. Like NIL
Yeah, right.
name, Manning is one of the most valuable names you can ever have, right? There and being the quarterback at Texas it is the most valuable position in all of college sports. The quarterback at Texas. You are the biggest show in town. You're in the biggest revenue generating athletic department, the biggest revenue generating football team, and the most revenue generating position. You combine that with Arch Manning, like Arch Manning is like the epitome of NIL for all the right reasons. Quinn Ewers is in that same seat, Sam Ellinger in that seat before him. Like that is the throne of college sports from an NIL perspective. And Arch is a case study on his own.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Blake, this is great, man. There's so many other things that I would love to get to with you, but maybe at some point we can link up again here. So, by the way, as a college baseball guy, I feel like college baseball, I would wonder what the opportunity is there for a lot of guys. I mean, I'm sure the LSUs of the world, Texas,
yeah,
like that's what I joke about. I'm like, if I maybe I would have gotten a free hoagie down at the down in town. I don't know if I would have been getting paid, but some of these guys, college baseball is putting out a really good product these days. So it's pretty cool.
They are.
That's evolved.
They are. I mean, there's 6-figure baseball players. You have to see like $1 million contract for college baseball players in our system. Maybe there's some out there.
Yep.
But there are definitely 6-figure guys out there, and that baseball. Just to talk to you about that, Joe. I mean, we're going back journey of Opendorse. Like we partner with NFLPA, MLBPA, NHLPA, PGA Tour, LPGA, Team USA, like all the national governing bodies. So like in the pro sports space, have been helping athletes for a decade plus, right? And one of my favorite things we've ever done is a partnership with the MLBPA to try and generate more marketing opportunities and brand building opportunities for baseball players. Because as a sport, baseball lacks that star power. And after working with MLB PA and MLB players, kind of found out that a lot of it's rooted in, it's a humble sport. It's a humbling sport. Most athletes, if you're failing 2 out of 3 times, like you're the best hitter on the team, right? And that's a fascinating concept, because then you're like, I don't want to even talk about myself, because it's just not going to get me further in this sport. Same thing, like baseball's like that, hockey's like that too. So what is the deal with baseball players in NIL? Do you have a theory on it? Am I right on this?
I mean, I feel like the new age baseball, like they want to show a little bit more flash, right? Like they want to, you want to be able to pimp a home run and do those types of things. But it's funny you say that, because there's just the guys that popped into my mind that were like the Tim Andersons of the world. I don't know if you know that name. He was with the
Yeah.
White Sox,
Oh, yeah.
like,
Yep.
but he was kind of just a flash in the flash
Right.
in the bucket, like.
Yeah.
But then it is a humble sport, yeah. Because the example they always give is the Mike Trouts, where it's like, this guy's the best, arguably one of the best players ever, but he's a quiet guy. He kind of just keeps to himself. Doesn't really like to be marketed. So I don't know. I think SEC baseball and ACC baseball, it's like it's such a good product, and the fans these days, like, they're drawing big time crowds. So who knows? I mean, it is a humbling sport, but maybe there's opportunity for some of these guys to show their personality a little bit more. Hopefully they can through Open
Yeah.
Doors.
No, yeah, for sure. We're working on it. And
Yeah.
I do think that college baseball provides a certain level of personal and professional development for baseball players versus minor leagues, right? So
Yeah.
because playing baseball at a high level in college and then playing baseball at a low level in the pros, very different, again, environment for developing as a human, like as a person, right? And trading out a high quality SEC ACC dorm room and on campus experience, dining hall, tutors and sororities, fraternities, like that's one path with also a 6-figure payday. The other path is seedy hotel rooms, motel rooms, buses traveling around different regions of the country. And the only people you see are other baseball players. So one of them is going to take you down a certain path. I think that the product of college baseball will improve greatly because of NIL, because you do not need to go to the minors to get a paycheck. You can get it in college. You can also get a degree and infrastructure around your experience that you simply don't get as a minor leaguer. And I think that could change also hockey. Hockey can change, knowing that you can get paid and get a degree and get the personal and professional development that comes with the student athlete experience. I think those are the other hidden values of NIL for certain sports.
I totally agree with you, man. So, all right, Blake, listen, thanks again. This is great. Just appreciate your time. Appreciate you sharing your story, but then also kind of like what's the future of all this? What you guys are doing is awesome, man. So where can people find you real quick? I know.
Yeah. Blake _ Lawrence on all your social channels. I think I'm like Real Blake Lawrence on TikTok. Opendorse, Opendorse. There's 150,000 athletes use it, helping make hundreds of millions of dollars each year. So if you hear anything NIL, it's probably, and you hear a data point, it probably comes from us at some point down the line. But just thankful to be helping another athlete every day. And thanks for letting me share my story.
Cool. All right, Blake. Appreciate it. Awesome.